and hardware to complete your project.
Check. You got me?
Need a custom order? We can help.
Yeah, I got you, DK.
All right. The MiFi overheated, so I'm going to put it on some
I
ice
thought
here.
it might.
Hopefully it'll...
DK on the Sports Tip. 3 to 6 days.
Does Urbano's decision to play for the Indiana Hoosiers change your feeling about his legacy as an Arizona Wildcats player?
Umar Ballo was about as Wildcat as it gets. Look at the smile on his face when he talks about what the McHale crowd means to him. That's real. How do you be a fan, David? That's the conversation we're having. You want to open that Pandora's box. Like, what does it mean to be a fan, and how do you fan? Well, that's really up to you.
Wildcats Radio 1290.
I'm Kathleen Wynne, Republican for Congress against Juan Ciscomani. I was honored to meet with President Trump and support his re-election this month when he came to Arizona. And Juan Ciscomani boycotted the rally. But is anyone shocked? Juan Ciscomani is a never-Trumper rhino who endorsed Chris Christie for president. And when Christie dropped out, endorsed Nikki Haley. I'm Kathleen Wynne, and I'm running against Juan Ciscomani. Southern Arizona needs a bold and strong conservative voice to defend our borders, fight wokeness, stop the spending, stop the debt, protect small business, and always put taxpayers first. It's time to stop and reverse the Biden agenda, not vote for it, enable it, and fund it as Ciscomani does repeatedly. Because Juan Ciscomani is too weak and too timid to fight for us. I'm Kathleen Wynne, Republican for Congress, and I approve this message because Congress needs a conservative change. Paid for by Wynne for Arizona.
Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's...
I'm Captain Tobacco from Tobacco Barn.
My tobacco hero.
I'm here to wipe out high prices on tobacco products. I'm also here to inform citizens that you could save up to 40% on your favorite tobacco products. Pay no city or state sales tax at Tobacco Barn and save up to another $3 with a coupon at TobaccoBarnTucson.com. Uh-oh, I see high prices. Excuse me.
Save up to 40% off all your tobacco products at Tobacco Barn. Tobacco Barn is on the Indian Reservation, so you're not paying state tax or any city sales tax. Plus, you can get a coupon for an additional $3 off at TobaccoBarnTucson.com.
Take it from Captain Tobacco. Save up to 40%. Save with no city or state sales tax.
About 10 seconds.
Tucson.com. Well, time for me to fly.
Tobacco Barn, Nogales Highway just south of Valencia. Check TobaccoBarnTucson.com.
DK on the Sports Tip on Wildcats Radio 1290.
520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. You can call us at that number. You can text us at that number. We're coming to you live with the pulsating jams in the background from Stadium Swim at Circa in downtown Las Vegas. Big 12 Media Week as we're getting set to make our first foray into our new conference. Huge, biggest flat screen TV that you are ever going to want to see. And J-Dub, I'm a happy man right now because the first game that they were showing has come to an end, and the St. Louis Cardinals defeated the Washington Nationals in a shutout by a score of 6-0. Miles Mikolas, who once wore a baseball jersey in Tucson, came up through the San Diego Padres system, and Mikolas pitched for the Tucson Padres back in the day around, I think, 2010, 2011. Doesn't seem like it was 13 years ago, 14 years ago that the Tucson Padres were in town, but it was. Miles Mikolas, 6 shutout innings today, 6 1/3, allowed just 6 hits and struck out 3. So the Cardinals get the win, and I mentioned, J-Dub, I'm a happy man now because the new game they've got on here is, of course, my Cleveland Guardians taking on the Detroit Tigers. So I get to talk radio with you all for the next 2.5 hours, and I get to watch my favorite baseball team play in front of me as well.
I got one question for you, David Kelly. You ready? Is it Charlie Condon or Travis Banzana?
Oh, that's a very good question. That's a very good
Yeah, so-
question. I know a whole lot more about, of course, Travis, having that we saw him
Yeah.
play this year in Tucson
A
when
lot,
the Oregon
yeah.
State Beavers came through. I don't know that you can go wrong with either one of those kids. But yeah, I would think I'd be pulling for Travis just because again we've had a quite a bit of success with another fine prospect that came out of Oregon State by the name of Stephen Kwan, who just led off with a ground ball to short 6-3 out, but is one of the best hitters in baseball right now. So I wouldn't mind another Beaver on the Guardians roster.
If this is the largest flat screen in human history, how large are the players on this? Are they like 3 times normal size? Like, are they? What's going on here?
Yeah, that
visually
would
for you?
be. I think they would. That's probably 3 times normal. That would be maybe 4 times. Would be about the right definition on that. Dimensions on that. They are huge. That's for sure.
Nice.
They are huge, and we got.
So the Major League Baseball draft's coming up, listeners, in case you didn't know what we're talking about. And the Guardians have the number 1 overall pick. And
First time ever.
Everybody this week has been saying it's a coin flip between Condon, who's the player of the year out of Georgia, he's center fielder, I think, but he's listed as an outfielder.
Right.
And then Travis Bazzana, we saw a ton of second basemen from Oregon State.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, again, like you said, it's a toss-up. I don't think you're going to miss on either one of those kids. I think they're both going to, obviously you never know with a first-round overall pick. Not everybody can get to the big leagues, but those 2 guys are about as surefire best bets, I think, as you're going to find for sure in this year's draft. So I wouldn't be unhappy with either one of them. Travis Bazzana, of course, so we know a little bit more about. So I would definitely love to see him be the guy for sure. Just as we look out, just to kind of give you an essence of what we're looking out to, we're on the upper level here, the Cabana level. So we're getting to hang out with the rich people today.
like
Although I don't
bottle service
know
level,
that
right?
there's a lot of these cabanas that are occupied today because it's so hot. But we're on the Cabana level here at Stadium Swim, and so we're kind of looking straight on at the TV. So if you're on the lower level, you've actually got to look up at it. But if you're on this level, you're looking right straight at it. And we've got all the lines that are up there. We've got all the baseball lines. We've got Copa America. Those lines are up on the board. You've got who's the next game? And what do we got in Copa America? I think there's games tonight. Canada is playing Argentina tonight. That game is up on the board right now. You've got Uruguay and Colombia. I believe they are also, or that's actually Wednesday night. So those 2 teams will play Wednesday night. Actually, that Canada game is tomorrow. So these are the lines for tomorrow's Copa America games. I mentioned we had 1 game out here over the weekend. There was also a number of games. I think they had 3 games here total in the Copa America. They had 2 of the games were also up in Glendale this past week. There was a game there this week, and that was a blowout, if I'm not mistaken, as well. I think Colombia blew out Panama 5-0 or something, which in soccer is not. You don't want to lose a game like that. But yeah, so we got UEFA Euro 2024. We got all those lines up here as well. If you want to come down to Circa and bet any of these games, the Guardians are a favorite in this game we're watching right now at -120. We'll dive into the Diamondbacks and bring you up to date on all that's happening with them coming up a little bit later. We did not get a chance to finish out. We had a little bit of a technical issue there at the end of that last segment. It is hot, folks. Some of our stuff is overheating, so I've got a few things on ice right now to make sure that we stay cool here in Las Vegas in terms of the equipment. But we did not get a chance to finish out our top 16 in the Big 12. We're talking about Colorado at number 11 and Deion Sanders' team and how maybe surprising that is that they were ranked so low. The final 12-16 is Baylor at 12, BYU at 13, Cincinnati 14, Houston 15, and Arizona State brings up the rear. They are picked to finish 16th in this initial season of the Big 12. I think, again, this is going to be an interesting football conference. I think from the standpoint that we've seen years where obviously TCU, was it 2 years ago, played in the national championship game. They're picked to finish 10th. They came out last year, and that was the big game. That was the week 0 game last year where Deion Sanders and Colorado went down there and beat them last year and kind of started them off on TCU on not a successful season. Of course, Colorado, went out. I believe they started 3-1 last year, and then they lost their last 9 games or whatever it was that the Buffaloes had their losing streak. So TCU has been a team that traditionally has been near the top of the Big 12. Baylor, we've seen years where Baylor has played in New Year's 6 games a lot. And so the fact that they're 12th, the Baylor Bears, that's somewhat surprising. They're down. I think the other surprise for me is BYU. BYU has always been consistently good. Obviously, they're new to this conference. This is, I think, the second year for the other 4 teams that joined last year.
Yep.
But surprising that BYU is that low. I would expect a little bit more out of them football-wise, J-Dub.
Again, going, DK, back to how you finished the game, how you finished the season last year, both BYU and Baylor finished last year on 5-game losing streaks as well.
Yeah.
So that does factor in. Also, surprisingly, Baylor only won 1 home game last year. 1-7 at home, DK.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. And again, it's going to be fun, and that's one of the things I talked about. Because again, you look at Kansas, football-wise. Kansas is not a team that generally you think of on the football side, but they've played very well the last few years. They've been in the mix in the Big 12 the last few years playing football. So that's a team that, again, they're ranked 4th coming into this year that has kind of flipped it. I think we're going to see this. We're going to see a lot of that, more of that, I think, in this conference than what we saw in the Pac-12, where it was traditionally, maybe a handful of schools, Washington, Stanford, USC, Oregon, that were going to win it annually. I think there's going to be a lot of years where you're going to see as many as 6 to 7 teams, maybe even more than that, depending on if this conference grows.
Who are waiting to take that mantle. First among them, probably the Oklahoma State Cowboys. But you're right. I mean, it's wide open. And I'm really looking forward to the next 2-3 years of those teams establishing a hierarchy, because right now it just seems like it's wide open.
All right, we're going to talk some U of A football coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to be joined by Vince Ferrara. He covers the Tennessee Volunteers for our sister station, Cumulus Radio sister station in Knoxville, 99.1, the sports animal. And so we'll talk to Vince and get a sense of a couple of transfers who have ended up in the Arizona programs, not just the football program, but the basketball program. Jack Luttrell, who is transferred over on the football side, and Tobe Uwakua. We're going to have to learn that name as we move forward. So we'll get his thoughts on those 2 transfers from the Tennessee Volunteers program to the Arizona Wildcats program, and what you are getting in the football player Jack Luttrell and the basketball player Tobe Uwakua. So interesting to talk to Vince. He was on the road with the Tennessee Volunteers down in Omaha recently for the winning of their national championship in baseball. So we'll get his thoughts on that. We'll also get his thoughts on the SEC and the transition they're seeing there with obviously the rearrival of Oklahoma and Texas to that conference. So a lot in store still for you coming up. We are live again at Stadium Swim. We'll talk to cricket in the next hour. Head on over right now to our Twitter account at Wildcats1290. Our question of the day, and we'll get into this as well in the 4 o'clock hour. If you're in a band, if you play in a band, if you ever played in a band, who's the one person in a band who really can't fake it if the band is having an off night? We'll get into this. I saw one of my favorite groups. I've talked about them ad nauseum on this show. Saw them in Tucson about a month and a half ago. The great Yachtly Crew. They are probably the foremost band in yacht rock music right now out on the scene. But I didn't think they were at their best here when I saw them at the Palms on Saturday night. And we're going to get into that because I literally sat, or I didn't sit, literally stood. We generally stand close to the stage, right up on the stage, because my wife likes to be close. But we were right there, and I kind of this time, because we immediately noticed that there was some difference in the sound, the way the group was sounding, and then you start watching everybody that's on the stage, and you kind of start to formulate interesting things in your mind about the performance as you're seeing it. So we'll dive into that in the second hour. So head on over right now. It's our question of the day. Who is the one person, if you're watching a group, that can't fake it? Is it the lead singer? Is it the guys that play guitars, whether it's bass guitar or I don't know what's the other guitar person called, J-Dub? You know a lot about it.
Guitar.
Guitar. Yeah, guitar, right. And bass guitar. Either of the guitar guys, we put them together. Can they fake it? Can the drummer fake it? Can the keyboardist fake it? Who's the one person you think can't fake it when your group is having an off night? We'll get into that. It's DK on the Sports Tip. 520-848-1290 is the number. J-Dub is here. Cricket is here. I'm with you at Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather together. Golf Links and Pantano and Golf Links, traffic signals malfunctioning. Collisions that are reported at Ajo Kino, the Kino-Ajo connection, and also on St. Mary's near Silver Bell. Ina does remain closed between Mona Lisa and Camino de la Tierra. An excessive heat warning until 8 p.m. on Wednesday, 111 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather together.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance can protect your small business with over 30 coverage options, an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Attention Tucson. Remember, if it's game day and the Wildcats are taking the floor, you can count on 1290 to bring you all the play-by-play action, the biggest pre- and post-game show in the Pac-12. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
Honey, our yard's full of weeds. Looks like a jungle and the neighbors are complaining.
I know. I'm trying to get rid of them, but the product I'm using, it doesn't work.
Oh.
Not to mention, I don't have the time.
But it's not just weeds.
Not?
No, I'm seeing ants.
Ants?
Yeah, and spiders.
Ooh, spiders.
I know, and I think I saw a scorpion.
No way.
Yes way, and there's a pack rat in our garage.
Ew. Okay, I'll call University Termite and Pest Control today. We'll get rid of all of them.
Okay, honey, thank you.
University Termite and Pest Control, locally owned. Find them online at bepestfree.com.
For 100 years, O'Reilly Chevrolet has been part of the fabric of Tucson, just as our Chevy trucks are part of the fabric of America. With that in mind, we're proud to announce it's officially truck season. And this year we have Motor Trend's Truck of the Year, the all-new Chevy Colorado. Test drive your new Chevy truck on Broadway next to Park Place Mall. Call 747-8000 or check out our entire lineup at O'Reilly.com. Don't miss truck season, going on now at O'Reilly Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
O'Reilly Chevrolet.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do...
Let's play something, Grandma.
...became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
It's kickoff time, and Believe podcasts are here to get you ready for the season.
This team, they looked to figure it out, and they said, okay, we got a shot at this thing.
With Believe, you get immediate reactions, game previews, and expert analysis from all 32 teams, plus all of your favorite college teams.
This is a true junior that we're talking about.
Sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone.
The running was good. His size is unbelievable.
Just search Believe. That's BLEAV podcast, wherever you listen.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out.
Attention. If your teen or preteen is or has been addicted to Instagram, Snapchat, or TikTok and been treated for eating disorders, body image issues, anxiety, depression, or suicidal thoughts, you may be eligible to participate in a lawsuit for significant compensation. Text SOCIAL to 323232 for more information. Disclosures by multiple Facebook whistleblowers suggest Instagram knows their social media platforms are highly addictive and cause eating disorders, body image issues, depression, and suicidal ideation, but have done little to stop it. If your family has been impacted by social media addiction, you could be eligible for significant compensation. Text SOCIAL to 323232 if you'd like to discuss a lawsuit. Text SOCIAL to 323232. Text the word SOCIAL to 323232.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Motley Rice, attorney Jennifer Guy is responsible for this ad. Motley Rice LLC is headquartered at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina 29464.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KCUB Tucson, a Cumulus media station. We are the sports station that Tucson turns to for all the latest news when it comes to Arizona men's basketball, along with all the play-by-play action. We are Wildcats Radio 1290. Live from the CNWT.
From the what?
Central Northwest Tucson. Duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but three first names, David Scott Kelly.
Coming to you live from Stadium Swim at the Circa Hotel and Casino Resort here in downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. Big 12 Media Week as the Wildcats start this venture into their new conference. The Wildcats will be on the stage. That event will be held at Allegiant Stadium starting tomorrow. We will get 8 teams tomorrow and 8 teams on Wednesday. We'll go through the order of the events of what we're going to be partaking at tomorrow, and things will get underway early in the morning. Obviously, you got 8 teams to get through. Looking forward to meeting a lot of new friends from the Big 12. We've got one of our sister stations from Oklahoma City. They've got some folks out here, so looking forward to meeting some of our Cumulus brothers and sisters as well. And hopefully we get a chance to touch base with some folks here in Las Vegas who have had some connections to Tucson, especially. A lot of folks that have worked in the media in Tucson over the years are doing radio and television here in Las Vegas. A lot of folks I worked with over at one of my former stops at KOLD. Sasha Loftus, who used to do the weather for us in traffic in the morning, is now here in Las Vegas as an anchor at Channel 8 here in town. Evan Schreiber, who I had a chance to work with at KOLD, was a reporter and an anchor at KOLD for a number of years. He left Tucson and went to Portland, and now he's down here in Las Vegas. And one of my favorite former interns at KOLD, Alex Eshelman, a cheerleader for your Arizona Wildcats, a journalism student. She has made her way through her broadcast career with the Mountain West Conference and up in Bozeman, Montana, and now she is here in Las Vegas. So hopefully maybe we'll get a chance to speak to one or two or more of them as we move on throughout the week. We are also going to be privileged tomorrow. You're going to want to join us in the 5 o'clock hour. We are going to chat with the one and only Rich Eisen tomorrow. He'll join the program. Rich's show debuted here on Wildcats Radio 1290 last Monday. Of course, he was on vacation, so Brian Weber filled in. Did a great job filling in all week. Did Brian Weber? You might remember Brian. You've seen him and heard him on a lot of Arizona Wildcat athletic events over the course of the last few years, whether it was soccer or softball or baseball, as we talked about. Brian had a flight to catch and had to leave out on a baseball game this year, but again, did a great job whenever he was broadcasting Arizona Wildcats events for the Pac-12 network, and did an outstanding job of filling in for Rich Eisen this past week. So Rich Eisen and company back. Today was the first time you had a chance to hear them. Now, just to remind you, we are running Rich Eisen on a delay. Rich Eisen's show airs at the same time as Jim Rome's show does. We are contractually obligated to obviously carry Jim Rome live, and so we are running Rich Eisen. We just thought it was a better program for us. Gives us a little bit more of a national profile with a host like Rich Eisen on our team here because of everything that he's been able to do and the profile that he has with the NFL Network, within the National Football League, obviously, formerly at ESPN. And so we decided to move in that direction with Rich Eisen. But again, the show is on a delay. It's on a 3-hour delay. So if you want to participate, in the program, you're going to have to listen to it on the stream and call in during the hours of 9 and noon. I know that's a little weird, but that's kind of the way that this whole thing is set up. So if you actually want to be on the Rich Eisen show, call in. We'll make sure we've got that number out there for you on all of our social media platforms so you know how to get in touch with the Rich Eisen show. But you've got to call between 9 and noon to be on the show, and then you can actually, it's even better, you can hear yourself 3 hours later. So if you're on the show at 10:10 our time, you can hear the show at 1:10. That's a pretty good deal. J-Dub, you can call in and you know exactly when you're going to be on, that you don't have to try to listen to yourself while you're actually on the call. 3 hours later, you can listen to yourself and see how you did.
Can you do one of those things where you call in and then you say what the outcome of a sporting game is, and then you can tell your friends, like, hey, watch this, I'm about to predict something live on the radio?
Exactly. Who knows? I mean, we may have some pretty good prognosticators out there in that respect.
I'm sure there's a few, yeah.
Yeah, so Rich Eisen, every day now from noon to 3 on Wildcats Radio 1290. And if you want to participate, again, you must do so between the hours of 9 and noon. And the number to call for Rich Eisen, so write this down, put it in your phone, 844-204-7424. That's 844-204-7424 to participate in the Rich Eisen show daily here on Wildcats Radio 1290. So glad to have Rich on board with our team moving forward. It's going to be fun listening to him, especially during the NFL season, because he is as locked in as anybody. All right, so we were talking at the end of the last hour about, I had a chance, saw Yachtly Crew here Saturday night. Now, it was at the Palms Hotel. I don't know if you've ever been to the Palms. It was a popular hotel earlier in this era. They've had a lot of financial issues they've gone through, but it's where they filmed The Real World. I remember, if you remember The Real World Las Vegas, that was the hotel the kids stayed at. It's been a very popular hotel. The Kardashians have done a lot of things at the Palms Hotel, so it gets its kind of marquee from being having different ties to the reality TV world. So this concert was supposed to be at the pool. The pool is called Soak, outdoor venue, 2 pools, lily pads, cabanas, all that with a stage, and you can see your favorite group play there. But obviously, as we've been talking about, we talked largely through the first hour of the show, it has been incredibly hot here in Las Vegas. Record temperatures yesterday at 120 degrees. And so they sent out an email mid last week that they were moving the show inside to the former nightclub, which was called Chaos. Now, Chaos used to be nightclub, day club. It's one of those clubs that kind of you could inside, outside, that whole thing. But they closed the club down, like I believe 2 or 3 years ago, because they just were hemorrhaging money. They were paying way too much money on DJs and that kind of thing. So it's not a club anymore. It's just a venue they have for the inside events and that kind of thing. So they moved the concert inside. So Yali Crew comes out, and it was very clear immediately that that this was not the greatest sound system that I've heard when I've gone to see them before. And I've seen them 4 times. I've seen them twice at the Rialto. I've seen them once in Phoenix, and I've seen them once at Ava Amphitheater at Casino del Sol, where they played out there last year with Ambrosia. You could hardly hear the lead singer's voice when he was singing. But I thought it was strange that you could hear him fine when he was talking. You just couldn't really hear him when he was singing. And my wife kind of made it, a song or two in, she's like, I can hardly hear him singing. And I was like, yeah, it's weird because he's usually, his mic is really hot. You can really hear the lyrics and all of that very well. So we started because they had played the night before. So they have a residency at the Palms. They'd had a show on Friday night. They were playing a second show on Saturday. And so we kind of started hypothesizing, well, maybe he doesn't have his voice tonight, so when he's singing, they're lowering the mic, so you can't really hear him. Because I walked around to the back, I was like, let me see if it sounds different in the back. Let me see if it sounds different over here. But no matter where we went, his voice when he was singing was not very hot. Now they've got a couple of other guys in the band that sing other songs. The song Brandy. Are you familiar with the song Brandy, J-Dub?
Yeah, sure.
Brandy, she's a fine girl, such a fine girl, that song. So one of the other guys sings that song. When he was singing, his mic was fine. We could hear him clear as day. But then it was interesting because he was the guitarist who was nearest us. And then when he was, he sings background on other songs. When he was singing background on the other songs, we felt like we were standing close enough that we should have been able to hear him, and we couldn't hear him. And then you start thinking to yourself, well, who's really singing and who's not singing? Who's up there just, and again, this goes all the way back to, lip syncing and all of that. I mean, we kind of went through that whole thing in the 80s. But you start to wonder when you're that close at a conference, who's actually out there singing, who's not singing, who's kind of mailing it in, maybe who doesn't have it tonight, because clearly the lead singer didn't have it because they had his mic really, really low. So
What was the time frame you said that they were meant to be in an outdoor venue and then moved?
Yeah, but they had made that decision days in advance.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like a last minute decision that they made to move it inside. They had sent this notice out, I think it was on Wednesday of last week, that the shows were going to be inside because of the heat. Yeah. So we start thinking about, well, maybe they seem like they're lowering his mic when he's singing, the lead singer. We're standing next to the guitarist, and it doesn't sound like he's singing on all the songs. He's maybe just mouthing the words on some songs. Then you start looking at the hands of the guitar players. It is like, is he really playing the guitar right now?
Right.
And can you tell if the guitar guys are actually playing at that particular point?
Well, I will say, not all of us have lip synced professionally, but we've all air guitared professionally. Every single person on the planet has done that. So, I mean, you should be able to pick that out, whether or not it's real or not. Pretty easy for someone to do that from the audience.
Yeah. So it's really weird, and so that's the basis of our question of the day: is can you tell who's faking it when you go to a show, when you go to see maybe one of your favorite bands, and who is the one person who can't fake it? J-Dub, I'm going to ask you this question. Do we have Cricket with us as well right now?
We do.
Okay,
Hello.
so I'm going to ask you both this question. Okay, so this is our question of the day. Who's the one person, Cricket? I don't know how long you've been in there, and if you've kind of been hearing. I went to see Yachtly Crew. It wasn't their best night. I didn't think the lead singer. They kind of had his mic really low, and so we kind of started thinking like, okay, maybe he doesn't have his voice tonight, so they're keeping his mic. They don't want him to have to, they don't want you to really hear exactly that. So we're kind of trying to figure out what was going on with the sound and all of that. So I kind of came up with this thing as like, when you go see your favorite band, who's the one person in the band that can't fake it if they don't have their A game that night? Is it the lead singer? Is it any of the guitar people? Is it the keyboardist, or is it the drummer? Who's the one person who you think can't fake it?
Yeah, I think basically I'm thinking about like music awards, because those are so structured and they do not allow for much lapses as far as the time's concerned, and there's always the risk of any kind of activism or whatever. So almost all of those, to my knowledge, are always recorded and lip synced. And so, DK, to answer for me, I think lip syncing and air guitar is pretty easy to fake. The one thing you cannot fake, and this is obviously dependent on being maybe a rock and roll band, are the drums, because you have to hit in perfect synchronicity, and if you do not, it's very obvious if you're back there swinging your arms around and the drum sounds coming off of the song are nothing compared to what you're doing over there. I think that would be probably the most difficult.
Tommy Lee from Motley Crue is amazing. Like, he carries that band so much. I mean, I haven't seen them recently in any recent time since they've gotten older, but Tommy Lee carried that band, Motley Crue, so much. He is the show, or he was at least.
So you both say the drummer is the one person who can't fake it.
Yeah, I kind of think that.
That's exactly what I said Saturday night. I said if you're watching this take place, I was like, so we don't know if the lead singer, if he has his voice, because we can't hear his mic. The guitarists, they kind of look like they're playing the guitars, but we're not sure because they kind of just look like they're moving their fingers. And then the guy on the keyboard, you can't really see the keyboard, and he's back there acting a fool, so you don't even know what he's doing back there.
I've seen enough, like, let's see, for instance, hosts of SNL, when they get up with a fake keyboard and it looks like they're playing, but it's quite clear that there's somebody else who actually knows what they're doing behind the scenes. I think faking a keyboard, you could definitely get away with that.
And
the camera's not directly on the fingers.
I left out the sax guy because, I mean, and he's a huge part of this band because the sax guy has solos in certain areas. So it's hard for him to fake it too we could hardly hear. He was not as loud as he normally is either. So part of me wanted to think, is it the band? Is it this crappy sound system inside this club that just is not giving us the sound that we're used to? And I wanted to say, yeah, it seems like it's the sound system, but it also seems like maybe he's not singing. It was hard to kind of gauge it, but I agree. I think the one person who can't fake it is the drummer, because that guy's got to play regardless.
True.
And everybody sees him playing, and it's like J-Dub said, he's got to hit it all with the drum and the cymbal and all that. That guy, he was the only one I said Saturday night. I mean, he's out there doing it, but I'm not sure everybody else is doing it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep the beat. Like, the whole point of the drummer is basically to keep everybody else in line, more or less.
Right, exactly. It's like the band leader. Yeah.
All right, so right now, if you go over to our Twitter account and you're voting in our poll, right now 50% of the voters say the lead singer is the one person who can't fake it. But after what I saw the other night, I believe the lead singer can fake it. They just turn his mic down so you can't really hear him that well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's fair.
520-848-1290. We want to hear from you on that. We're going to talk some Arizona football and basketball when we come back. But right now, cricket is getting you home every 20 minutes. And cricket, apparently you said, I heard you say in your last update, I think it's hotter there at the moment than it is here. And it was 120 here yesterday.
Oh, well, it's not that hot here, thank goodness. From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather together. With Inez remaining closed between Mona Lisa and Camino de la Tierra. Collisions that are reported 22nd Street and 6th Avenue. Broadway near Prudence also clearing. There is an excessive heat warning until 8 p.m. on Wednesday, and it's about 1:12 now. And I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather together.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's new Saucy Nugs, a whole new way to nug. The best nugs are now even better. Wendy's new Saucy Nugs take the nugs you love and sauce them up in bold flavors, including buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parm, and spicy ghost pepper. Try them all today. For a whole new way to nug, it's gotta be Wendy's, a participating U.S. Wendy's.
Tucson, remember, the home of the Wildcats is 1290, with Brian Jeffries calling all the play-by-play action of Arizona football, men's basketball, and baseball. The one and only home of Arizona Athletics is
in any sport since 2009. Just incredible in any of the big three sports it had been since the football championship in 1998. So they've been through so much and broke through, and Tony Vitello is an absolute superstar around here. So a fun team to watch. They had all the expectations and the jinx of the number one overall and overcame all of it. So, yeah, it's still being cherished. It's not going to take a back seat to football, but it is not going to be forgotten anytime soon.
You mentioned Tony Vitello, and apparently he was kind of loved in College Station too. Did they really make a run for him the way that we were reading to try to get him over there to replace Schlossnagle?
Yeah, it was Kendall Rogers who's outstanding at his work, and he's the one that reported that.
Yeah.
That if that did happen, and it wouldn't surprise me if it did, we all thought Texas would be the one initially to go after him, but then you started to read into the background with Schlossnagle and the AD there at Texas, and you thought, all right, maybe they go that route, but anyone would be foolish not to at least check in the back channels. But he was so integral in them renovating Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and the final phase of the expansion to the stadium is going to kick in next year. So he's got everything here. He's already cashed in on a championship. You don't walk away from a championship, and so he's got a really good thing going. No better job in his mind. So it didn't surprise me that he stayed put.
We're chatting with Vince Ferrara from 99.1 The Sports Animal, our sister station in Knoxville, Tennessee, Cumulus Sports Radio. And again, Tennessee Volunteers. First, before we get into these two guys, I want to talk specifically about Vince. We were talking in the first hour just about the transfer portal as a whole. And I was just looking at, we're talking about a lot about Colorado and how they've had astronomical numbers of kids going in and out of that program since Deion got there. And just looking at the Texas football program, according you mentioned On3, only 10 kids left, or only 10 kids came in, only 13 kids left. That seems pretty low to some of the numbers that we were talking about in our first hour. It seemed like a lot of teams were 20 in, 20 out, that kind of in those numbers. And I'm curious, is that kind of what you guys thought? There would be a stable year for Tennessee football in that respect? And where do you think, once we get out of this COVID era, those numbers are going to start to average out, I think, for most schools in terms of number of kids going in and number of kids coming out annually?
Yeah, I did see that On3 layout of all the basically did a net gain in what they lost versus what came in, and crazy to see Alabama 16th in those rankings because they lost like 40 some odd players.
Yeah.
And they did have quality and they brought in, but it's hard to overcome those numbers. Yeah, Tennessee has been quiet in a lot of areas. They've been quiet in terms of number of guys, the volume of guys leaving. They didn't panic or bring in any specific positions specifically in the after spring. We thought, all right, maybe they're going to address the running back situation. They were banged up in the spring, and really only Dylan Sampson and a rising sophomore, Khalifa Keith, are the only healthy scholarship running backs. They're getting a couple of guys back for the fall, but they didn't go bring a guy in just for the sake of bringing a guy in. So they're pretty selective in who they bring in. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised at that because it's also part of the stability with their coaching staff. Josh Heupel had two coaches change in this offseason, which is low compared to most schools on their entire staff, and that equaled all of the changes he had in the previous years before that. So there really has been a lot of stability, and I think that's part of why things have continued to grow, and there's so much excitement about this year's team. Just not a whole bunch of people hopping just to get out. Look, there's certainly some guys that don't see a path for playing time, but it is pretty stable. Very impressive in how they've handled that. As far as the whole landscape of it, David, I think it depends on what happens in terms of that lawsuit with the litigation.
Right.
So is that going to change the employee status, or is NIL all going to go through the schools? I think there's a chance that it could actually slow things down depending on what the format is, but then it's hard to say exactly what that format for sure is going to be. So hesitant to say that it's going to be, one way or the other, but it is something that I think maybe isn't automatically just going to continue to grow. Depending on what it looks like, there's a chance that it could at least slow down if they incentivize it, whatever they end up doing, if they incentivize it to keep guys on campus for multiple years at their school and not just hop for the sake of hopping.
Vince Ferrara from 99.1 Sports Animal in Knoxville is our guest. All right, let's talk about a couple of Vols turned Wildcats. We didn't have a lot of hitting in our spring game this past year until like most of the ones didn't really do much hitting out there. It wasn't like a pads cracking kind of spring game. But then they let the 2s and 3s get in there, and things kind of got going there. And one of the guys that stood out to me was Jack Latrell, the transfer from Tennessee last year out of the state of Georgia. Seems like a young man from that safety position that can bring some hat, was really moving to the ball, had a nose for the football in what we saw in the plays that he was out there during the spring game and in spring practice. What are we getting in this young man, Jack Latrell?
Well, he was a 3-star originally coming out of that Gainesville, Georgia area, Colquitt County High School. So he's a guy that you thought, all right, he might have potential beyond what the expectations are for 3 stars. Typically, plenty of 3 stars can develop into regular players. They have at Tennessee, they have at other schools, but you kind of are a little bit behind some of the other guys that are rated higher. Coming out of high school, though, fast, athletic, and he did kind of have a little bit of feedback when he first got on in practices as, one of those guys that could really lay the lumber from time to time. Definitely more of a safety, versatile in terms of positions he played in high school, so wouldn't surprise me if he can play multiple positions in the secondary for the Wildcats. But he only played in 3 games last year. They're all early in the year against Austin Peay, Florida, and UT San Antonio. None of them really meaningful snaps on defense, just some special teams, so really didn't have any stats to speak of. But a guy that there was hopes and opinions that he could develop into a contributing player. And little surprising that some of these guys left from the Tennessee secondary. Tennessee was really hit in a couple of different positions in the portal, and DB was the biggest one where they were. So you think, all right, for 1 or 2 of these guys, hey, there's an opportunity for playing time. If you're leaving because you don't think there's playing time, if you stay there while everybody else around you is leaving, then maybe there's an opportunity. And I don't remember exactly the order of how it went, David, and if there was other guys that left after him, or maybe he looks back and he says, oh man, if I would have known all those guys left, maybe I would have stayed, because he is closer to home. But it was a young guy that they did like, and was part of a number of DBs that took off